Thank you, Professor. Hello, my dear students. Welcome back to another session with me. As I mentioned many times before, all these sessions are available. I'm doing a series of workshops in a specific logical sequence. So those of you who are returning, it's awesome to see you guys back. Those of you who are new, please remember these videos are available in your student portal, and some of them are even available on the YouTube channel as well. So please go ahead and watch them in the sequence whenever you want, like a revision or start again. Especially today, this one is a direct sequel to the previous workshop that I was able to do a few days ago. Now that was about project management with Trello. So a quick recap about what this is all about is Trello is a project management web-based software. Okay, so the reason why we talked about it in the previous session is because many of you might be considering software development, and eventually some of you will probably end up in some kind of a project ownership kind of scenario. And also further, even if you're not doing anything in software development on a daily basis, we are always trying to manage one or the other project. So that is what we found out last time. There was a lot of questions about people, even outside of software, they're trying to understand how can they manage projects better, and that is where Trello comes into picture. So an introduction has been given in the previous session. So today my plan is to give you, in the previous session it was more about explaining what Trello is, what it contains, and so on and so forth. Now today, think of it as a little bit of a deep dive into the different features available on Trello and how you can make the most of it. Okay, so that's the recap. A more in detailed discussion, please watch the previous class recording. So let's go ahead. Now, today, main thing is, I really hope some of you have a notebook with you. If you don't have it, get one, have it ready. So as I'm talking, make some notes, or if you're watching the recording later, make some notes with that as well, because today it's going to be a little bit of a practical session. So I'm hoping all of you will have some kind of a pen, and a notebook to go along with it. Now, the very first thing, my friends, that you need to get yourself is, obviously, this is a web-based software. Now, you are already using a lot of web-based software. The best example is, of course, your email. You have your Gmail account, Outlook account, or any other email that you might be using. All of them are essentially web-based software, right? Because you can go ahead to check your email. Just go to any browser on your mobile phone, tablet, PC, whatever you have. You can log into your gmail.com or outlook.com and check your email. And the same email you can check on mobile apps. If you're using Outlook mail apps and things like that, you can use that as well. So similarly, Trello is a web-based software. So obviously, the very first thing you're going to do is get yourself a Trello account. Now, please understand, now I'm going to show it to you on the screen as well. So I'm going to go off full screen here on my computer. I'm going to fire up my computer here. Now, I already have a Trello account, so I'm not going to create a new one, but I will just show you how it looks when you try to do it. Now, please make a note of this. Atlassian is the company that makes Trello accounts. So even though I'm talking about Trello, when you're trying to create an account, you'll be visiting the website called as Atlassian, and then when you go to sign in, somewhere here, there will be an option to create an account. I'm sure Professor Walson can see it as well. So do you see like a very small, tiny option here in the bottom, sir?
Yes, I can see everything.
There you go, Professor. I've seen a lot of students when I teach them Trello, sir, in my private classes. They kind of miss that button. So I'm just pointing it out. Now, of course, you already have the options here like Google, Microsoft, Apple account, Slack account. There's nothing wrong in using those options as well. But if you're really becoming serious about project management, I would humbly request you to go ahead, create an account the old-fashioned way, where you fill in an email address, a password, and things like that. I strongly recommend it. Now, these options are also fine. Nothing wrong with it. But just my thing, I'm like an old school developer from the old days when we didn't have these options. So I'm just used to it. So two ways to create your account. One, old-fashioned way of putting your email address and then signing up with all the details. Or if you already have a Google or a Microsoft or an Apple or a Slack account, just use that account and log in right away. So that is the very, very first step. One more thing I have seen from experience is every time I tell my students to create an account on Trello or GitHub or any of the other things, for some reason, they immediately forget it. You'll be surprised how often that happens. So my request to the students is when you do this after this class, make sure you write down the password first somewhere on a notebook or your diary or something. And of course, please keep the diary secure, okay? It's not, there's a reason why it's called a password. So keep it safe, and then go ahead and you create your account. Now, one more thing I wanna mention, this is kind of serious. There is something called as two-factor authentication. Now, some of you may already know what two-factor authentication is. If you do not know, two-factor authentication really is all about you have your password, which is factor number one, and then you need to enter a second password to log in to your account. So that is called two-factor. Now, so definitely Trello is about product management, and same thing with GitHub, on which I have talked about many times in these workshops. Please remember to turn on two-factor authentication, not only on your Trello Atlassian account, but also on all your accounts, especially your work-related accounts like GitHub, Trello, your email, obviously. So make sure you use a two-factor authentication app. Okay, an example I can give you is every time, for example, I'll try to show you right now. So if I try to, I'm already logged in, so I don't know how I'll show it, but so anyway, so what happens here is, let me just, it looks something like this. So let me try to go to GitHub. Yeah, there you go. So let me just show you. Oh, I don't know, just show you with Trello itself. So let me try to log into Trello, okay? Okay, let me try to show you how it works. So once you create an account, let's say I'll try to go to Trello, there you go. You'll see something like this. And then what will happen is I'll click on login. And then there you go. So I'm gonna enter my email and continue. And then it'll ask me for the password. Okay, I'm gonna try the password and hold on. There you go, okay? So this is what I'm talking about. So you can see the words there. Let me zoom in. Two-step verification. So make sure you enter the two-step verification password or code and then log into your account. Now, why is this so important? As I told you, it's possible that your password might get hacked, or you may have written it down in a diary or something, and the diary is stolen. So any of those scenarios can happen. So that is why it is important you set up two-factor authentication on all your accounts so that your account is safe. Like right now, I give so many presentations, I share my screen. Many times my password may be on the screen. So someone might make a note of it, or maybe not on purpose, but accidentally. And then they try to log into my account. But fortunately, maybe somebody can see my password, but they cannot see the codes. The code is only on my phone, and the code changes every 30 seconds. So there is no chance of getting hacked. So that's very important, my dear students. I know it's a very small detail, but I've noticed in my experience, first-time students, they always seem to forget to turn on two-factor authentication when they create an account. So there you go. That is the very, very first step. So go ahead, get your Trello account created, maybe after this class or something, and then do not forget to turn on two-factor authentication. So that is the very, very first step. Now we are jumping in directly to the practical steps today because this is a sequel to the theory session which happened last time. So some of you might be getting lost because you're coming in directly to the sequel, but just bear with us, and maybe after the class, go back and watch the previous session. Now, the next thing obviously is to look at all the different features and how they appear in Trello. But before I move on to that, Dr. Walsin, the first step, sir, was that clear to you, sir? Is there any questions or anything which I need to answer before I start with this one?
No, I don't have any question on my end. As a matter of fact, I did put in the chat line an additional detail regarding the two-factor authentication you just mentioned.
Very good, sir. Very good.
The participants that it's a major security feature that allows them to protect their accounts and avoid, pretty much like you just said, events of hacking, for example.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, Professor. Thank you. Excellent, sir. So, guys, let's move on to the next topic. Then the next thing I want to talk about is, first step, you obviously have to create what is called as a Trello board. So I'm assuming you already know how to do it because we did it in the last class. So what I'll do here is, let me just go into my own Trello account. So you can see here I have many projects. So what I'll do here is, first step, I'm going to try and create a new board. So somewhere here, I go to workspaces, and somewhere here, I must have an app create. There we go. So if you see here, there's a create button right there on the top. You'll see something like this once you log in. Okay, all the different boards. Usually what I do is, for every project, I have a separate board. So you can see I have a project, I have a board for family and life. I know it's a little funny, but I use Trello to manage my personal life as well. Nothing wrong with it. I like to keep my life organized. I have another board for a project which we are working on, another board for another project I'm working for a client, another one for another client, another one for another client. So for every client, for every new project, I have a separate board created, and I strongly recommend you do the same thing. Don't try to combine different projects into a single board. Some people like to do that, but please understand, project management ultimately means you organize things into different components. So there we go. So what we'll do here is we'll go all the way to the top. Dr. Watson, I'm sure you can see the button there, sir, at the top, create button. Once you go there, just go for the first option, create board. And I'm going to call this one, thank you, Dr. Watson. So I'm going to call this AIU part 2 Trello session. So I'm going to assume that I'm creating a new project called AIU part 2 Trello session. There are many workspaces. Workspace is a little bit of advanced feature. We'll not try to go into that today. So I'm going to leave it on personal visibility. Again, I'll just keep it where it is. And I'm going to click on create. And now we have a brand new board. So this is what you will see once you have created a new account, and then you went ahead and created a new board as well. Normally, what I do is, the first thing I want to talk about, you saw it in the PPT as well, I want to talk about lists. You know what lists are like? A list is a collection of items. Those of you who are into programming, list is like an array, or again, an actual list. So collections, really. So in Trello, what happens is, so suppose we are starting in a project. So let's say I am your faculty, and I have to handle different assignments for different classrooms. So I'm a faculty, and I need to manage all the classes I handle. So what I'll do here is, I'll go ahead and create a different list for every item in my head that I feel like managing. So what I'll do is, I always, as a general habit, I like to create the first list. I just call it general stuff or something. This is more like an entry point. And then let's say I'm handling, 3 classes. Okay. So I'm handling one class on HTML classes, I guess. I'm just going to call it HTML classes. Let's say I'm handling JavaScript classes. Why not? Okay. And I also like chess, so let's say that, in the university, there's a chess program or something. So I'm handling chess classes. So there you go. So I'm a faculty. So I have 3 responsibilities, 3 classrooms. So one is the HTML classes, another one is the JavaScript classes, and the third one is the chess class. And also what I like to do is, I want to call another list called other things. So this is a standard system that I have built over many years of using Trello. So when you start using Trello, you'll probably have many more lists. But in the beginning, like when you create, you want to practice after this class, first step, go ahead, create one list for general stuff, or give whatever you want, general, introduction, basics, whatever you want. So one list for all the general things, and then one list for every different topic that you are hoping to manage. So I'm imagining I'm a faculty, I have HTML class, there you go, JavaScript class, there you go, chess class, there you go. And finally, there'll always be some things which don't belong to any specific category. So I'm going to create a list called other things. And finally, I'm going to create one more list called as done. Okay, I will come back to that, what that means, and so on. So there you go, folks. So this is how you go ahead and create different lists based on what you're trying to do. So let's try to imagine what is happening here. So next thing, you have the list. Okay, so let's go to the next topic here. We have checklist. But before we can do checklist, what I need to do is I need to fill up something in these lists. Okay, so we already talked about this in the previous workshop, so it should be straightforward. So I'm going to go ahead and add a card. So I'm going to say something like teaching responsibility. So you can give any title you want. Okay, all you have to do is click and automatically a card will be created for you. Press enter, and once you create it, you'll get a card like this. So this is the foundation of Trello. So whenever we are talking like project managers and all the team members, we're always talking about cards. So this is a card. Now what do you see here? Look at this. So first step, let me get my marker. There's a lot of information going on here, so I'm going to go through it one by one. So first step, you have the title. Okay, I always recommend, just like in programming, you know how I always say, whenever you talk about variables in JavaScript, give a meaningful name so that the name indicates what is the purpose of the variable. Similarly, you are creating a card to do a specific task. So make sure you give a nice name for the card. Don't worry about keeping it short or something. You don't have to be, there's no rule that says, the title has to be short or something. So however long you want, go for it, go crazy with it. As long as it gives you the meaning of the card, you can give that title. So first step is the title. All right, now the next thing, let's move on from there, is you have a description. So this card is mainly about my own teaching responsibilities. So when I create this card, I'll go ahead and maybe type something. Let me just put something here like, okay, I have 3 classes that I'm handling for my work. Okay, just a small description. Normally I write very long descriptions, but this workshop is only 45 minutes plus questions. So I'm just keeping it short. And then don't forget to hit save. So make sure you have a title, and then make sure you have a description. Again, just like the name, the description can be as detailed as you want, because the more description you have, the more other team members. Now, do not forget, project management software and project management is all about communication. You want your team members to know what is happening. So when they look at a card, when they look at an activity, they must be able to understand without having to talk to you or ask you a question or something. Hey, what is this card? What is this about? What am I supposed to do? The less questions will happen when you have put more detail into the card. All right. Now, the next part here, what I like to use is, you have the activity. I'll come back to that in a minute. Okay. What I really like about is the attachment option. Okay. So let's come back to, let's close this card. All right. Now I'm going to say in HTML class, let's say AIU has asked me to conduct a workshop on, let's say, tables in HTML. Let's say they've asked me to conduct a workshop on paragraphs in HTML. Okay. So like this, every time AIU gives me a task, some work that I have to do, I will go ahead and assign an activity card for that task. So again, in JavaScript, there's, I have to do a workshop on prime numbers. I have to do a workshop on fetch APIs. Okay, like this. So I hope you're getting the gist of what I'm trying to do here. So again, chess, I have to explain, rules of chess to first time players. So like this, every time I'm given a task from my client, AIU or something, I go ahead and create a card. And every time I open this one, and I'll make a note like, okay, I have to do a workshop on HTML. So like this. So there you go, folks. So whatever you want. Right now, just for the sake of doing this fast, I'm just going to copy paste this in all my cards. Okay. Because you should not leave any of the cards empty. It becomes difficult to work with them. So I'm going to just put this here in all the descriptions. In a real project, obviously, you'll take some time to write down detailed descriptions. Okay, so now I have all these tasks assigned. But we also have a list called other things. So here, let's say they have called me for some faculty birthday party. So I can put that as well. So I can say, birthday party on Saturday. So, again, there's a faculty who has a birthday, and then that also we can put it. Yeah, there we go. Now it's looking really cool. So all the list, all the corresponding things going here and there. And one more thing I like to do is every time I do something, if something is really important, I like to link different cards. So I have this one, teaching responsibilities. So I can attach that birthday party here to this card. Dr. Watson, did you see that step, sir? I'll repeat it one more time. So whenever you feel like something is linked, okay? So let's say I have this one. Let's say the stable task is related to the chess task. For some reason, I'm just using an example. So I can go to the table task, click on attachment. I can search for the chess task, and then I can link them up. Dr. Watson, does that make sense, sir? Like being able to link?
Yes.
There you go. Perfect. So this is very important, folks, because now you know how it works, right? Like when you're working on a project, let me bring up the whiteboard here. Yeah, here we go. And let me just have a sip of water. Okay, now how do all projects work, my dear students? So always you will have one main task, something like teach JavaScript. Okay, that is like the main task. And then there will be another task linked to it, which could be teach tables. And then for this teaching tables thing, there may be another task, which is like preparing the code for JavaScript. Then another task will be preparing the PPT for the class. I mean, this is how it works, right? Like, for example, when I have to take a class, I have to prepare all the material, make all the notes, PPTs, get all the accounts ready, time ready. I even have coffee ready every time I do a workshop in case, I feel, exhausted or something. So there you go. So for every main task, there are so many other tasks. So that is the key here. So when you're creating cards, remember to link all the related cards. So everything is linked. So when your team member looks at a card, they know, like, okay, this is the main task, which is taking a class on JavaScript, but then that is related to another task, which is then related to another task, which is then related to another task. This may look complex, but that is why we are using project management software. If things were not complex, there was no need to use any project management software. So there you go. So the complexity is anticipated. So if you're not anticipating any kind of complication, there really is no reason to use a project management software, right? I mean, let's say you live, if you live here and then your office is right next door, you don't need to buy a car or take a rickshaw or anything like that. You can just walk if your office is right next to your house. If your office is far, that is when you need to think about how will you commute? Will you take a bus, the metro, train, whatever you have options in front of you. So we only use things when we need them. So obviously, if this begins to look complicated, please understand that is part of the game. So that is where we really use Trello. So linking cards is a very, very important and essential activity. Now, newcomers, obviously, you will find it very difficult to figure out like what to link, what not to link, and things like that. But you know what? Don't worry about it. It's just a Trello board. If you make a mistake, you make a mistake. If you link something, for example, I'm linking this workshop on tables with the rules of chess. So let's say I also link the birthday party. Okay. Now I made a mistake though, because the workshop, about HTML table has nothing to do with a birthday party. So I can happily go ahead and remove the link, and we are back to looking good. So linking cards. So that is one way to link cards. Another way to link card is, and this is also useful because you know what, like this top space, it gets filled up really fast and not everything is that important. So another way to link a card is, let's say I go to the birthday party here and I want to link fetch API to the birthday party. So maybe in that birthday party, there's a senior faculty. I want to ask some doubt or something. So what I'll do is when you open a card at the top, okay, Dr. Watson, you see this, sir, at the top, the URL, sir. Okay, he sees it. Yeah, so there we go. There we go. So everyone should be able to see it then. So another way to link a Trello card, and I use this a lot, is to simply copy the URL at the top, come back and go to the card. Like this is the card I want to link with, and then put it in the comment. I'm going to repeat that. So this is the card, birthday. I want to link it with the workshop on fetch. So let's say I want to link it with the chess players as well. So what I'll do is I'll open the chess card, copy the URL, and then I'll go back to the birthday card and I'll put that URL. And now these two cards are linked. So if I want to know about this, I can just click on it and there you go. I'm now on the chess card. Now, if you want to establish a two-way connection, like this is right now one way. I started from the birthday card. I came to the chess card, but I can't go back though, because there's no information about it. So what I could do is, if I really want to, I can take the URL of the birthday card as well, and then I can plug it in the chess card like this. So now there's a two-way connection. So from the chess card, I can jump to the birthday card. From the birthday card, I can jump to the chess card. Now, I'm sure there are more, elegant and cool way of doing it, but this one to me seems very practical, simple. I'm always that kind of guy. I prefer simplicity over something looking grand or stylish. So this is an easy way to link different types of cards. And as a project manager myself, you saw already, I work with multiple clients from all over the world. I've been doing this for many years, and this really works. And a lot of my clients, team members, they appreciate that everything is linked like crazy, so they can navigate from one place to another. It's like a metro station, like if you ever gone to a big city with lots of metro stations, they're all connected, buses, trains, rickshaws, and the metro trains, and all those things, they're all connected, like all over the place. But still, it makes sense when you're traveling a massive city. So similarly, right now in the beginning, this may look very, very much like, okay, you know what, this is scary. Not really. Once you get used to it, you doing these things becomes second nature to you. And the better you can do these things, the better you'll become like a project manager. Now, this is something I mentioned in the previous class as well. Now, please understand, project managers obviously make a lot of money. When you talk about career progression and things like that, there are many ways you can get promoted and make money. One way is to become a project manager, because obviously managing people is something which not everybody can do. So if you are good at managing people, learning these kind of utilities will be very useful to you. So that is about the cards and the list and so on and so forth. So Professor, any questions, sir, while I grab myself a sip of water?
I don't have any specific question at this time. However, I don't want to interrupt the flow of your presentation. However, one thing that I would like you to elaborate on is whether there is a fee to use Trello. I think our participants might be interested in knowing if they have to pay to use Trello.
Well, Professor, this is what is called as a, like the basic features are free, but advanced features are paid kind of situation, Professor. Like, Professor, do you know about these games like Fortnite or Call of Duty or something, sir? You can download the game and play it for free. But if you want those cool looking characters, the bag, the umbrella, I mean, they don't make you a better player, but it might help you boost your confidence.
True.
Something like that. Like right now, I don't have a paid plan, sir. Like so I'm able to do all these things. But the good thing, Professor, is I'm like a small businessman. I have maybe 3-4 clients, and that's it. So for that kind of small operation, I've been using Trello for many years without paying for any premium plan, Professor. So I hope that answers your question, sir.
You did. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, very good, Professor. All right. So next thing, what is happening here is, Professor, 1 second, Professor, 1 second. I'm feeling very, it's like winter here.
Take your
Professor, but
time.
it's also
Take your
very humid.
time. We are enjoying your presentation today.
It's like it's winter, Professor, but also very humid because it's raining a lot. So I'm feeling very. Thank you, Professor. Okay. All right. So returning the flow then. So there you go, guys. So list and then adding all the activity cards so that you can go ahead and put different things. So as you work on a project, you'll be creating more and more and more and more lists and activity cards for a specific task. Now, so that is why what I do is if you have too many things going on, now what I like to do is I like to create one more list, and I usually call it doing. Okay, now this may seem very simple, but I am telling you, one of the best things that I've seen my clients like about me is how I make use of this doing list and the done list. So let's take one task. Okay, so let's pick one task. So let's say Professor Watson is like, Jay, you know what? We have a chess workshop and you are in charge of it. So the professor says, okay, you have to do a chess workshop. So what I'll do is, this is my main chess workshop card, and then I will sit down and discuss with Professor Walson. Okay, so what are the different things I have to do to organize these chess workshops? And then after the meeting, when I'm talking, I told you guys, I always have my pen, I always have my notebook with me wherever I go. I'll make a list of things I'm supposed to do. The first thing is, Dr. Walson and we decide we are going to purchase a chess board. Obviously, if you're going to do a chess workshop, we need to have a chess board, and then we need to fix a time for the workshop. We need to decide, like some flyers and invitations. We have to decide on the Zoom links and related technology things, right? So, and then of course, maybe we have to buy some books to recommend to the students, and then just do some general research about this project. Now, what did I just do there, my dear students? So that is this thing I want to talk about. So once you learned how to create lists, the second thing you need to learn is how to create a checklist. So that is what I just did over there. So there you go. So I have a card, and then I was able to go ahead and decide on a list of items that I am supposed to do to execute this task. Okay, so this is what happened. I had a meeting with the professor. You know how it is when you're working for a company or working in student projects or something, you always have these meetings. Now, obviously, meetings can be boring. I'm not going to deny that, but they are necessary. So when in the meeting, you make notes and you decide, these are the 5 things that we have to do. So now I'm going to start doing them one by one. So what I do is I create a checklist. Okay, and then first step is I need to buy a chessboard. So this is my first step. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll come out of this card, I'll go to the doing section, and I'm going to say buy a basic wooden chessboard. So that is the first thing I have to do. I have to go to the shop, and then buy a basic wooden chessboard. So what I'll do is I'll go here for the chess workshop, buy chessboard. So I'm just using a simple example, guys. I'm not saying you have to go and buy a chessboard. I'm just giving an example. So then what I'll do is I'll go to the attachment and I'll connect this with the workshop. Hold on. So remember, you have to connect things to make it easy. So I'm going to say workshop on chess. Where is that? I'll take some time to, hold on, it's not coming for some reason. Hold on, I think I made a mistake. I have to explain the chess tools, right? There we go. Okay. This one, yeah. It's linked now. And here I'll go back and I will link that chessboard. There you go. So they're now both linked now. So then what I'll do here is I'll make a note here, like, okay, today went to the shop, bought 5 chessboards. Again, very silly, but I'm using a very silly example to explain a complex topic. So I hope you'll excuse me. So I have done this step. So once I do this step, what I will do is I'll go back here. I'll go back to the original checklist, and then I'll put a check mark. Now, this is what I'm talking about. So when you are doing a project, every card, every task will have a long number of activities that you have to do. So my suggestion to you, my dear students, is it doesn't matter how simple, how silly, how trivial the step you have to do. Make sure you document it in a checklist. And then open a new card for every item you have to do, and then put the details of that item in a separate card. And when that activity is completed, you come back and put a check mark. So I finished buying the chessboard task, and then I came back and I put a check mark. So it is done. And then if I want to, I can make a note. I'll say here, Dr. Walson, uh, um, I'll say chessboards have been purchased. So there you go. So then what happens? So I do this, say, in the evening, and then I go to bed, and then maybe, Professor Walson, I'm sure Professor Walson gets up really early in the morning. So he gets up in the morning and he looks at the Trello card and he knows, hey, wait a second. Oh, Jay has left a note. He says the first step is completed. So he doesn't have to call me up or wait for me to get up or anything like that. So everything is in the board. See, this is the real reason why we use project management software, to communicate to your team members all the work that is happening without having to wait for them. Now Dr. Watson knows I have done this step. So similarly, again, next day I go and fix a time for the workshop. Again, I go and create the flyers. I go and create the Zoom links. I go and buy some books. As and when I do all the steps, all the information gets updated on the Trello management room. So there's no need for Dr. Walson to contact me to ask me about the status of this workshop. So whenever he wants to know what is happening, he opens Trello and he sees that, oh, Jay has done this, 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 this. Okay, so it's all ready then. So what is happening here? So let's say if there was no Trello, then every time, maybe every half an hour or every day in the evening, Professor Walson has to give me a call or something, or have a Zoom call. Jay, did you buy the chessboard? Jay, did you fix the time for the workshop? So you see how much time is spent just talking and asking about what has happened and what has not happened. Okay, so this is what I really love about Trello, the amount of time that is saved with routine communication. Now, these are routine things. If Dr. Watson wants to talk to me, let's talk about real things, not talk about things like, oh, did you do this? Did you do that? That's a waste of time. Instead of using the time for these kind of activities, Dr. Watson and I can talk about the weather, or how hard things are getting, how bad things are getting. So there you go. That's what the checklist is all about. So remember to use checklist whenever you're working on a project. And if the checklist is becoming too big, that probably means you're doing something wrong. So try to limit your checklist to maybe 5-10 items. If it's going more than that, create another checklist, right? You can create as many lists as you want. See, I just created another list. Right, again, I'm going to create one more list. There you go. Create as many lists as you want. And if you are having too many lists in a single card, again, you're making a mistake. So go ahead, create a new card, move some of the items to the other card and link them up and have them better organized. Okay, so that is the thing about checklist. Okay, so very, very important feature. One of my favorite features is the checklist feature. So that is how I'm able to track what is happening and what is not happening. So what I do is, once a work is done, I take the card and carefully move it to the done list card. Again, very important. So when Dr. Walson gets up in the morning, he directly goes to the doing section, and then he sees that, okay, Jay is up to that step. 1 second, Dr. Walson. Again, the humidity, sir, sorry. Okay. So he sees that I'm working on the wooden chessboard activity, and then he sees it again in the morning after one day, and he sees that I have moved this to the done section. So now Dr. Walson knows, oh, Jay has finished that task as well. And if he wants to know what happened, he'll open the card and he's like, okay, he went and bought 5 chessboards. And then Dr. Walson can reply and he can say, oh, thank you, Jay. Please send the receipts to the purchase department. He can also, right now I am replying like him, but in a real project, every person will have an account and they can all chat with each other. So, and he'll say, oh, received from the purchase department. So there you go. So now what happens when I get up, or when maybe I'm in a class or something, and I see the reply from Dr. Wilson, he says, thank you. And then he says, send the receipts to the purchase department. And there you go. So that is how we use a combination of Trello cards, lists, linking them together, description, URL on the top, okay, and finally, putting a tick mark on the checklist so people can know what you are really up to. Okay, now there are obviously you can see there are a lot of other features here. I simply don't have the time to explain all those things. One last thing I want to explain. Okay, the workshop is for 45 minutes plus question. So one last thing I want to show before I can take some questions from the audience is, see on the top right corner, Dr. Wilson, I hope you can see this. So this will be kind of hidden here. So I'm just gonna, now if you go to the menu here, all right, at the center of this, there is a small button called activity. So if you click on that, that's it. So every single item done by the entire team is listed. Like how when you're playing a match or something, every activity is listed like a notification or something. So this is everything being done by everybody. So if you have 100 people in your team and all 100 people are taking care of different items, taking care of different cards, taking care of different checklists, adding comments, deleting comments, replying to comments, everything comes here as an activity. Every small activity comes up here. So whenever I'm working in a team, usually in our team, we'll have like 3 or 5 or 10 people. Every day in the morning when I get up, I log into work. You have to understand, right? Like I'm working from India, but usually I work for clients in America. Sometimes we have a team member from Australia, another team member from Europe or something. So we are all working in different time zones, with different times. So how do we know who is doing what? We can't spend half a day asking, what did you do? What did you do? What did you do? That's not practical. Half the time is wasted just in communication. So what we do is all of us, we get up in the morning, we look at this activity list, and I know like, okay, Sam has done this, Natasha has done this, Chan has done this. So that is how we know what is happening in the entire project. And whenever we have some doubt, like what did they do? All we have to do is just click on the card and the card will come. And usually the card will have details, comments, updates, everything will be typed down by the person. And the best part is, this is of course, I'm just showing you on the browser. You have the app on your mobile, install it. So you don't have to every time come to your computer. You can see what's happening on your smartphone itself and get to know what is happening in the project. So very, very useful to know about all these features. There are many, many more features, guys, but I don't think we have the time to look into all of them. So some of the other things, let me just see in the PowerPoint if I missed something. So checklist, activity list, I showed that. Linking cards, I showed that. Due dates. Oh, one last thing I want to show you about due dates. So what happens here is, so let's say I have the birthday party option here. Where is that? Oh, there you go. So it's on Saturday, right? So if I go to my calendar here, Saturday is 12th, August 12th. So there's a nice option here. I can go to dates and I can select 12th, which is the birthday day. And I can even set the time. So let's say the birthday is happening at 2 p.m., after class or something. So I can make it 1:45 p.m. All right. And then I hit save. So now you can see here, let me get my marker. You can see that the due date is set. This is very, very useful for me because, every task in every project will always have a due date or a deadline, right? Like today, I have to do a workshop for AIU. I'm doing that right now. So in my Trello board, I would have set a card saying, okay, today I have to do a workshop on Trello. The date is August 8th. It's due on 7:30 p.m. India time. So I set that due date. So every day when I get up, I will get a notification that I have to do that. So every day I'm being reminded, you mean that's a little overkill, but you know what? I like to be reminded. I don't want to miss any meetings. I don't want to miss any appointments. So very, very interesting feature. And for me, it is a lifesaver because, you know, I obviously I'm working for many things. You know, it's so easy to forget these things. You know, that is where software comes into picture. It helps you manage your life, and that is why it's called project management. So that's about the due date feature. And whenever the work is done, just go here. You know, you can put a check mark saying that it's completed. So there you go. Or if the due date is changing, you can click here and put some other date, change the time, and then hit save, and the due date is changed as well. So that's another nifty feature that you want to use to manage your project better. Let me see if there's anything else. Best practices, I already talked about it. Is there anything obvious I missed out? Yeah, that's all the main things I wanted to show, guys. That's all the main things I want to show. One last thing, if you don't like this photo in the back, some students have asked me, I am sure if I go here, there's an option called change background. And if I want to, I can just search for a photo, let's say a panda, a very silly feature, but I'll show it anyway. So we'll take this one and we can change the background. There you go. That's how you change the background. There you go, guys. It looks nice. Okay, it's panda time. And there you go, folks. So that is all the things I want to show you. But again, there are so much more. But you know, once you start practicing, you'll start using all these things. But what I showed you today is like the 80% of what I use Trello on a daily basis since 2017. That's when I was introduced to Trello by the company I was working for, a client I was working for at that day, and since then it has become a part of my life. So there you go, folks. That is where I'm going to stop, Dr. Watson. So any questions, sir? I'm ready for it.
Very well done. Well said. Well presented. I am happy again. Ladies and gentlemen, I was Baka Hali, Radhakrishnan Vijayasimha J, Professor J. And once more, you would agree with me that he has thoroughly delivered. We're talking about a true expert in the most complete sense of that term, because he has done it in such a practical, pragmatic manner that each one of you has to understand what we just got from Professor J. With this,
you're too kind, Professor. You're too kind.
I love Trello because, you know, I'm just gonna open an account because even though I do get involved using other software in website creation or building, but I am impressed with your presentation, and I'm sure I'm gonna give it a chance. And you know, it's not flattering you, Jay, but it is a fact that those people around the world, if they were aware of everything that you're doing, they should take appropriate steps to award you a Nobel Prize, Nobel Prize as they call it in the world of teaching, because you've done it outstandingly well with examples, case studies and details, and as you are going through your presentation, you also are drawing so that people can follow the logical flow of that presentation. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you.
We are going now, ladies and gentlemen, into the questions that you want to ask Professor J. Go ahead and let's hear from you. You can remove the presentation, Jay, so that we can see better all the faces and eventually the hands that will, you know, go up into the screen. Go ahead, ladies and gentlemen. We are now ready for your questions about Trello. That's a life changer in the world of project management, not just web design, but in order to have that kind of logical flow of a process in project management. This is it. Just give it a try. If there are areas of the presentation that were not very clear to you, go ahead, ask questions. Adama Sanyang, we are with you at this time, Adama. We are ready for your question, Adama. Adama is apparently okay.
Hello.
Yes, yes.
Hello, hi.
Are you getting me?
I can
Very
hear you.
well.
Okay, all right. I'm asking him whether you can use Trello.com to organize a meeting, just like Zoom and all this. Can you use this software to organize a meeting?
Not really. It doesn't have
really.
any video.
That feature like that.
No. So normally in our projects, what we do is whenever there's a meeting, we put the Zoom link in the card.
Okay.
All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Going now to Kambiro.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Or Kaido.
Okay, nice to meet you,
It's a pleasure.
Professor and presenters, all participants. Thank you. I'm talking from Ethiopia, West Africa. Really, I appreciate the presenter because I have attended the session in the previous lesson, and it is very great to again attend this active project or active session. My question is here: how this Trello project management software improves the AI teaching and learning process?
So if you're a student, I think that is what you're asking, like how can a student use this? So now I'm not in college anymore. So, but if I was in college, so normally what I would do is like for every subject, I would create a list. Right? I would have a list for mathematics. Like I'm going back to my younger days, 20 years ago, when I was thin and even more good looking. So I would have a list for math. I would have a list for chemistry. I would have a list for C programming, C++. So I would have a list for all of them. And then I would have a card for every test that is coming up, every assignment that is coming up, every puzzle that I have to submit. Maybe I have to attend some workshops. So for all those things, I would create separate lists. And for all of them, I would put the due date. And then that is how I would manage my college life. So because, going to college itself is like a big project, by far the most important project in your life, because if you manage your college life better, you're going to have a great life for the rest of your life. So there you go. So that is how students can use this, and you should use this so that you'll never miss a deadline. Like the computer will keep reminding you every day, like, Dr. Wals's assignment is due Saturday. Dr. Wals's assignment is due Friday. Do it. So you can never tell anybody that nobody told you there was an assignment, because the software never forgets. The only way the software will forget is you stop using it. So that is how you would, I would recommend students to use this, because college itself is a project, isn't it?
Ramazani Chuma, it is your turn now. Ramazani.
Yeah, thank you, Professor, to give me the opportunity. Thank you for the presenter, Jay. I've got a simple question, small simple question. The question is, how can the Trello software work on the other interested area? Is it possible the Trello to work on the other area also beside project management in a business component? That's a simple question I have.
From what I understand, sir, I don't think it has any specific features for that. Not that I know of. One, I have not used ADA, so I don't know anything about it. But I have never seen it being mentioned in any of the Trello features. So I do not think there's a direct connection or a plugin or anything like that. So I don't think so, Yuma. I don't think so.
I just would like to add that the way I understand Trello is a powerful tool for organization.
That's right, sir. That's right. Yes.
Linking organization and communication, if you are working on your own, regardless of the field you are involved in, you can organize your thoughts, organize your actions, your activities. And if you are teaming up in a team with other people, you can communicate with these people and know very well what every member of the team is doing, in a real-time fashion. Those are the features of the Trello that you can use to maximize your activity. Adil, Mufti.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for this is very informative presentation, and I love it. And thank you, Vijay and Dr. Falkin. Thank you very much. My question is, can you, with this project management software, can you link it with ChatGPT to get more information?
So that's the thing, sir. Like Trello, let me just share my screen here. So it has what is called as, hold on, let me just share my screen and go back to the Trello board I created. Now you'll see here, there is something called as Powerups, okay? And there's also something called automation, okay? Now, Powerups, if I go here and add Powerups, there is, just like you have the App Store on your Android phone, there are hundreds and hundreds of different services that are available, which can be integrated into your Trello board. So maybe there are some AI tools. Let me search for it. So there you go. If I search for AI, I see that there's something called strategy AI. There is something called, that's all there is. So I don't think there's any direct way to integrate it, but there is something called, yeah, there you go. Some guy has built oh, there you go. That's it. Yeah, there you go. That's it. So there is a power up. So ultimately, you can use these power ups. So somebody has built a power up which attaches ChatGPT to Trello. So yes, the answer is yes, you can. There you go. Yeah, I hope that answers your question, sir.
Very good. Thank you.
But please understand that as Professor Wasim asked me before, this is still a free plus paid kind of thing. So I have a feeling, I've never used power-ups, but I have a feeling that some power-ups are free, some power-ups are paid, some power-ups are free, but you need to pay Trello some money. Trello is free, but power-ups are paid. It's like a money thing because somebody has to make money. So just remember that. But yes, you can use. There you go. I didn't know about this, but there it is.
Very good. Very good.
Jeanette Bon, Yemisi, do you have a question for Professor J? Jeanette Bon? Jeanette Bon doesn't seem to be ready for our outstanding presenter, so we are now moving to Ike Edwin. Ike. Okay, before we go to Ike, Jeanette Burns has finally connected his audio. Jeanette Burns, please go ahead with your question. Unfortunately, it's not working. Ike, Edwin, go ahead.
All right, good evening, everybody from Nigeria.
Good evening.
My question is simple, a little. From what I'm seeing, I have already downloaded the Trello. It's just a way of getting somebody organized in whatever he or she wants to do. But my simple question is this. this is a software developed by somebody based on his own perspective about life, about anything. I hope you are hearing me clearly.
I can hear you, sir. Please go ahead.
All right. This is a software developed by somebody based on his perspectives about life and perception about things. Now, my question is there the assurance that it can fit everybody's situation, no matter whatever you want to do? Because the person that developed it might not be in my own kind of situation. So how assured are we that it can fit anybody's situation? Thank you.
Right. So that is the thing here. Like ultimately, as you mentioned, this is a software developed by some American company to meet their own requirements. So eventually, this is kind of like a like a glove thing. Like you can't change the size of the glove. If the glove fits your hand, then you can use it. If the glove doesn't fit your hand, you just have to find a different glove, because the glove is not going to change. So you try to make it work for you, but if you feel that instead of helping you manage your project, the software is actually holding you back, then that is when this isn't the right tool, for your project. So that is what I like to say, sir, because I know there are a lot of limitations of the software as well, because I mainly use it for simple things, it's like, for example, if you ever worked as a party planner, or you have a friend who's a wedding planner, they have these big books with all the details and everything. So essentially, Trello is a digital party planner. That's what it is. A digital party planner. So if what you're doing,
it's okay.
That situation, then it makes sense. If it doesn't fit, then
I understand you
for that purpose.
Thank you
It
very
doesn't
much.
work for everybody, though. It doesn't work for everyone. That much I can tell you. There are many places where Trello doesn't actually fit in.
All right. Let's hear a female voice at this time. Going to Katia Jean Marie. If you are able to hear us, Katia, go ahead, ask your question, please.
Hello, good morning. Thank you, Professor, for your presentation. It's powerful and very helpful for us to use the web now and as professional. And my question is, if this trailer is like Outlook 365, will help us to plan better and share taxes?
So normally, what you would do is you would kind of link, if you feel like I believe there is a Powerup for Outlook 365. So you can actually link Trello to Word documents. You can link it to your OneDrive. You can link it to your email. If you're already using a calendar, you can link that with your Trello. So it's not like a replacement. It's more like friends working together. So it's like I have right now when I do a presentation, I have my laptop and I'm talking, I'm on my iPad. So they're working together, like a team. So that's how Trello and Office 365 are designed. So they will work together if you want to. So if you already have Office 365 from university or something, then go ahead, link them up, and you'll be even more productive. So they can be used together, not as a replacement only.
There's a question on the chat line. I don't quite understand why. Oh, okay. I just saw the name. I'm so sorry about the fact that Jeanette Bond could not connect his audio. But he has a question about whether you can send a bulk message to all the clients in an organization, and also if it is possible to send a birthday card.
Right. So once again, Professor, the answer goes back to the Powerup section. So let's say you want to use Trello to trigger some kind of a mass email, then you will have to, like, for example, the previous student was asking about Office 365. So it is possible to link your Trello to Office 365. And when it comes to bulk mails, Professor, so you have to look at something like SendGrid or something. I don't know if you use that, Professor. So for mass emails, there are a lot of apps like MailChimp or SendGrid. So you can link them up and trigger some kind of a mass email. Same thing with flyers. So again, you can use some Powerup or something, but I don't think that's what Trello is designed for. So ultimately it comes back to a similar answer, Professor. So there are Powerups. So if you want to make Trello the center of your, like the project life, you can do it by linking up different Powerups. But ultimately, it is ultimately a digital planner book. So any specific task, like sending emails or creating a flyer or anything which is nothing to do with project management, you would still have to use a separate software but you can link them up. You can link them up, but I wouldn't think that's actually that useful.
Thank you. It's all about linking, ladies and gentlemen. If there is another component you want to incorporate into the use of the Trello, all you have to do is link that component to.
It's like this, Professor. It's like when you go to the movie theater, sir. Like obviously, movie theaters have a restaurant, but you wouldn't go there just to eat the food, though. So it's like depending on the situation. So you go to a movie and you feel hungry, you eat it there. But if you're just hungry, it's better to go to a restaurant because that's what a restaurant is. But you can still go to a movie theater, pay for a ticket, and only eat the food. Nobody's stopping you from doing it.
Very well. I don't see any hand up at this point. We are about to close the session, but let's give Gertrude Shifambe an opportunity to ask the last question. We are with you, Gertrude.
Thank you, Doku, and I also pass my gratitude to Jay.
Okay.
But Jay, one concern that I have is since you are in this business, or you are an expert in ICT because of what you brought to this forum, is it possible that we can also have a presentation maybe on tools that can help us to analyze data, especially qualitative data?
I have worked on data analysis myself, but I'll add it to my notes. I can talk it up. I can discuss with Dr. Walson, and if there's something which I'm aware of, maybe I can check with some friends. I'll try to add it to the list in the future, man. No problem.
All right. Thank you, Doc. And thank
no
you,
problem,
Dr.
No problem. I'll ask my friends. I do have a lot of friends from my university days and MBA. I'm sure I can pick up some general information and have a presentation at some point in the future. I've definitely added it to my note. Yes, ma'am.
Enemy Stefan, the very last.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Valsin. Dr. J, thank you very much for the presentation. An AIE student studying behavioral project management. I put up my question on the chat box, but obviously it wasn't looked at. Yes, so let me ask my question. In project management, we have what we call dependencies, where a particular task depends on some other task. And the example I gave is like in construction, you have to finish the foundation before you can build the walls. And you have to complete building the walls before you can paint. So the painting depends on the completion of the wall, and the wall depends on the foundation. So can we use Trello to manage dependencies to say, okay, task A has to complete before task B will start, and task C has to start when task B has reached 50%, stuff like that. In scheduling, we put this on the Gantt chart. Yes, I'm sure you're familiar with the Gantt chart. So that's my question. Can we use Trello for this?
Right. The simple answer is, Stephen, it's a no. Trello does not have such advanced capabilities. So what I would recommend is, this has happened in some of my projects as well. So what we do is we use Trello as a general purpose project management software. And whenever we have a complex project which has dependencies, we start using either Jira or Airtable. So you may want to look into those things, Stephen, if you have a complex project where you have a rigid dependency. So Trello is more of a, like a general all-rounder, mainly meant for simple things like students, family people and things like that. But the scenario you told me, you can choose Jira from the same company, same account, or Airtable, another software that I have used in companies. I like Airtable more than Jira because it has a lot of colors. I'm a colors guy, so I would recommend Airtable. Not Trello for what you said. Don't use Trello for complex things. It's not designed for that.
All right, thank you very much for that.
I'm convinced you have addressed that topic in your presentation, Jay. We're going to look at this again as the last question. It is on the chat line from Namututo. And I understand there are ways to connect the participants of a team, but that is the question from July. How do I connect the participants on the project?
Okay, let me just show that quickly on the screen here, Professor. So once again, folks, sharing my screen here. Now, what happens here is, if I go back to the board, let me close this. You'll see here that there's a nice little button called Share. So let's say I want Professor Walson to become part. Somewhere there is a microphone, something.
Yeah, I'm trying to mute to identify the.
I think it's gone now. Okay. All right. So all you have to do is just come here, guys. Let me just show that again. So on the top right corner of your board, any board that you create, there'll be a very nice share button. And all you have to do is get the email address of your friend or team member, just put that email address, or if they are already working with you on another board, like right now, one of my clients' name is coming up, just go ahead and select them and send them an invite. That's it. So once you invite them, they will show up and they'll be able to see your board, and whatever changes you make, they can see, and whatever changes they make, you can see. So inviting people is very simple. Right there, click on share, add their Trello email address, and boom, they're part of the group.
Oh man, that was really outstanding. I would like to hear more about it, and I believe it's the feeling of every participant on this session, but unfortunately we already run out of time in the last 13 minutes, and Professor Jay has done enough. But remember, the recording is available. It will be shared with you. It is also available on the Facebook page of Atlantic International University. Thank you very much, Jay, for your time, your presentation, your skills, and everything you've done for the AIU family. And I hope you have a very, very blessed Tuesday, sorry. And to each and every one of you, dear participants, it's been a real delight again for me to have you join us for this feast, this academic party of Atlantic International University. Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor Jay. Be blessed, everybody.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Dr. Walson.
I hope you'll join us again in the next time.
Thank you, Professor.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Meeting tomorrow, 10 o'clock.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the lecture.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.